I just want to say thank you for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have a chat with me.
Thank you, Timothy.
Perfect, no worries, bro. So, do you mind first and foremost just giving a brief introduction about yourself, who you are, what interests you have, kind of stuff like that?
For sure, yeah. I'm Jacob A. Tiller. I'm a self improvement, spirituality, and self love YouTuber. I think the perfect formula for life is embracing self improvement and spirituality, having those lifestyles, because it shows how much you love yourself in life, you know. And when you love yourself, it shines on other people, and they love themselves too. So you kind of build each other up that way, and that's my goal is to elevate our vibrations, our collective consciousness, to speak in spiritual terms. But it's essentially just in simple terms building each other up, and finding each other's purpose in life so we can help each other. That's basically how um, I go about my YouTube channel and all that.
I love that, man. Self improvement and spirituality. So, let's dive right in a bit into your journey. What was your life like before you even found out about the whole self improvement thing? What habits did you have? How was your mental health? Those kind of things.
This is a beautiful question because the way my life was set up, the way it was written, if if it's like if it were to be a story, right, like a book, my life, God would be like a very good author. So
Mm,
before I found self improvement, I was at a low state in my life. I was depressed. Um, but I would say it's like seasonal depression versus I'm not clinically. I've never been diagnosed with any mental health issues, but I was at that stage of depression. I just finished my freshman year of high school, and in the summer I was really lonely, and the habits I was indulging in, like pornography, I would say I was watching daily. There's just nothing I was doing that was productive or fulfilling to me, and
mm,
that's when the next school year came around in August, and this one video I'll never forget. It's called "Why Most People Will Remain in Mediocrity," and I don't remember the exact channel's name, but it's "Why Most People Will Remain in Mediocrity." And so
okay.
across my feed, I decided to watch it because I was becoming a little more ambitious at the time. I was I don't know how to explain it really, but I was watching, Kobe Bryant highlights and being inspired by his mentality. It's like everything came together. And just several months later, I was introduced kind of like to the first self improvement habit, and that is like no fap, right? And it was because I was participating in this No Nut November challenge. And then I came across no fap videos, and I came across, these YouTubers making no fap content, and that really opened my eyes up to a new world of self improvement and bettering ourselves, destroying the bad habits and creating good ones so we can build ourselves up again. So that's the beginning of my self improvement journey. Is there anything you want to add to that?
That's a really relatable story for most, young people and teenagers out there, man. So I love how you were able to, you was depressed, feeling low mental health, and you picked yourself back up and look at where you are today, man. Speaks for itself. So, what are some of the habits that you do today, like now, after you found out about the whole self improvement thing, becoming a better version of yourself, no fap, all of that kind of thing? What other activities do you incorporate into your daily life?
Yeah, for sure. Besides NoFap, which is like it's an interesting topic because it's focusing on not doing something. So the things I'm
Yeah.
actually doing in my life now is going to the gym consistently, which I've done more consistently. I'm doing more consistently now than I have ever done with my life. I'm trying to build muscle and
Mm,
basically create a brand new version of myself, physically in that sense, and mentally and spiritually. I meditate pretty consistently, and I'm getting into reading books daily, such as The Way of the Superior Man. Uh, I finished How to Win
mm.
Friends and Influence People a while ago, but that's just two of my favorite books. It seems like as if every book I read, I love it, and I found a joy for reading, such as The Alchemist. The Alchemist is probably my favorite book of all time, but it's
Ah,
because
okay.
it's a story about a young boy following his dreams, and it really resonates with my heart and all that. But um, so yeah, I
Mm.
said meditation, reading, uh, cold showers. I'm not that consistent with, but I'm definitely still working on it and all that. And
Okay.
that's I don't I'm
I
trying to
love
think of
that,
more,
man.
but
No,
that's the biggest
that's
thing
good.
for me.
That sounds productive already, man. That's great. And The
Thank you.
Alchemist, I do need to read. I haven't come across that one. What would you say is the biggest distraction or problem that teenagers and young people face in their lives today that contribute to bad mental health, contributes to like depression and feeling low all the time? What would you say? Is it social media? Is it bad eating habits? Is it lack of exercise? What would you say?
Well, what you just listed is a combination of those things, but I think the first like great step, and it's kind of like a small step, but simultaneously, if it's your first step, it's going to lead to greater, bigger things for you. To me, that's like quitting social media in the sense that you aren't using for validation anymore. You aren't, posting for validation, nor are you consuming content that no longer benefits your life. Um, of course, we can still have
Mm,
entertainment from time to time, and that can bring like a smile on our faces. But really, I'm like the content I used to consume back then. It would just like I wouldn't remember it tomorrow. That kind of thing. I want to learn things that I'll remember tomorrow through videos and the content I'm watching, and
mm,
when it comes to I guess the posting side, I'm way more productive now in providing value to the people I'm posting for. But back then, I would post for validation or attention seeking or just wanting that like that next dopamine hit, that next like on Instagram,
mm,
comment, whatever it may be, to make myself feel worthy. But I realized that my self worth was given to me by God, and it's unconditional. And so, with that being said, the biggest distraction that has caused like a decline in this generation's mental health is, I believe, to be social media usage, because I see the correlation. Um, as
mm.
so the social media age has risen, so has mental health issues like depression or anxiety. I see no coincidence, I just see a synchronicity. So is that something you tend to agree with?
I would agree. Yeah, I think social media, it ties into, it's like the basis of all of the other kind of problems. Like peer pressure, or like dopamine chasing, all of these kind of
Yeah.
things, and it's really addictive as well. That's the problem with it. So it leads to like, wasting tons of hours in the day that could have been used to do something productive, or it leads to feelings of, body dysmorphia when you're seeing all of, these influencers and stuff there, six pack or whatever it is, the ideal bodies. So that can lead to like, feelings of low self esteem and contribute to low mental health and depression, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I definitely say social media is one of the biggest problems.
I find it to be important, but this came up to me just now.
Yeah.
The social media, it takes away the mindfulness aspect most of the time, because really, how many times do we actually go on and like actively search for something, right? A lot of the times, our generation, or I guess really the entire world, is just mindlessly scrolling through and
Hmm.
not even knowing what they want out of life, let alone that app. And so I really
Yeah.
think that mindfulness will be reapplied to your life when you decide to quit social media and mindlessly consuming and all that. So
Mm. So for someone who is tired of social media, they understand all of the negative effects it has on them. How do like what are some of the first steps they can take to quitting it, permanently, because maybe they've tried in the past, but they just keep going back to it because they have nothing else to fill their time up with, and it's addictive. What would you say?
I like that question, my man. I have a video titled "How Instagram is Actively Destroying Your Mental Health." I don't mean to attack that one app specifically, but it's the one that has hurt me the most because I used it the most. So there's definitely other apps that people are
Mm.
addicted to, like Chat Snap, TalkTick, Twitter. Uh,
Yeah.
just I want to throw those apps out the window. I think they're worse than Instagram, but essentially, bro,
Mm.
I think you asked. oh yeah, the first step somebody can take, right? It's
Yeah.
realizing how these companies want to take away your soul. Because there is this one quote that resonates with me from the documentary. It's called "The Social Dilemma," and I encourage everybody watching this
Mm.
podcast to put that on their bucket list to watch "The Social Dilemma." And
Social. Okay.
one quote that resonated with me was, "If something is free, you are the product." And I don't like the idea of me being a product. I like the idea of me
Mm.
being a free and independent soul. So maybe that will resonate uh, if we were to preach to the people addicted to social media, like, hey bro, these companies want to control you, they want to profit off you, versus giving you the knowledge and inspiration that you need, which it plays into how social media is a double-edged sword, right? And a lot of times people
Yes.
fall on the wrong end of the sword, they get stabbed by it. And so that's just my way of thinking, is the first step is education. You can either educate yourself or find somebody that educates you. It is what it is.
I love that, man. It is a double-edged sword now that I think about it. Yeah, that's pretty much the best way to put it. Okay,
Yeah.
so would you count like YouTube as a social media, first and foremost? Was that a yes or no, and why?
Yeah, I've come to terms with the fact that YouTube is a social media. Like in the past,
Oh, okay.
for a while, I was like, yeah, well, YouTube is a little different. It has got this, and yeah, it is a little different. But you also got to qualify it as a social media, because you got people interacting in the comment section. There can still be some negativity, and with other social media
Mm.
platforms, I'd say, like the line for what qualifies as a social media app would be like Spotify, because all you're really doing is listening to music. You can follow people and profiles and all that, but you can't necessarily interact and spread negative energy or positive
Mm,
energy, I
yeah,
guess. But you can still create playlists. But yeah, YouTube is
that's
definitely
true.
social media. It's just one of the more uh, delayed gratification social medias, so to speak.
Okay. And so, what at what stage, in your journey did you decide you want to start, creating content and impacting the lives of other people? Well, why did you start like creating content?
Man, this is another one of those things where I feel like God or whatever higher power that be just set me up for this moment, like in my favor. So
Mm.
in around September, my first year of college, my second month of college, I just had this idea because I had been watching Ice Cold JT, Jordan Green for a while, and I love both of them. And
Mm.
I was like, man, I sometimes wonder if I can inspire people like that. And so this idea was like roaming around in my head, and then I got confirmation from both of them, both of those influencers that had inspired me the most. Jordan Green, he
Oh
made
wow,
like a video titled "Don't Be a Self Development YouTuber," which the title is like the opposite of the content within it. Which he's basically encouraging you to be a YouTuber. And then I watched that,
I
and I was
see.
like, okay, that might be a sign. And then Ice Cold JT like directly messaged me. Um, if you want like the full story, it's in my "How to Start a Self Improvement Channel" video. I have a video titled that, and it's basically him voice messaging me and being like, "Hey, start that channel, Jacob Tiller. I want to be the first comment." And that was like, I was like, "Wow, he really that blows
That's
my
dope.
mind and gives me so much encouragement and confidence." And that was the beginning of it all. I basically a new identity was formed, and I tapped into like that optimistic energy within myself, which I want to keep for the rest of my life. I want to maintain that vision for the rest of my life of helping others up and living a great life. So
I love that, man. So, okay, a couple of things that I want to touch on, but first I want to ask you. So now you've been creating content for a while. What's like a piece of advice you could give to someone who also wants to start their own journey or self development channel, but they're afraid of being on camera? They're afraid of like what their friends might say because of the content they produce. Like, how does someone overcome the fear of putting themselves out there on the internet?
I love this question because I can relate to most of the fears that people have. If you
Mm,
fear the opinions of other people, like there's got to be some point where you overcome it. because that's what's holding you back. And you aren't really making videos for critics
Mm,
anyway. You're making videos for people who resonate with your message, and you might also be making videos for yourself. Like, what would your younger self appreciate about the videos you make? What would he learn from it? And so that's kind of the mindset I have coming in to
mm,
making YouTube videos. And just anybody who wants to start their own self improvement channel, hey, just go for it. The fact,
yeah,
or just this idea, it might not be a fact, but the idea that your first video or two won't get any videos that might play into your favorite, it might not. It's all about your perspective. If your first video don't get any views, then you don't have any negative comments or criticism towards your way, and you'll be like, hey, okay, my first time on camera wasn't that bad, I'll find a way to improve. I'll watch this video and find a way to improve for the second video. And you just keep on improving and learning. And I think the best thing ever is to just start, because you'll realize how much you
yeah.
actually love doing it.
Mm, that's a fact. Yeah, just
Yeah.
start and don't look back. Really, I love
Yeah.
that, man.
Yeah.
So
With starting
yeah,
though, I know like that
yeah,
message gets thrown out all the time, like just start, just start. That's why I made
yeah.
my own video for encouraging others to start their channel, because I realize there's some fears that people have, and a lot of them are actually pretty valid fears. So if there's any specific one, you
Mm,
can email me at my business email is jacob.a.tiller@gmail.com, and just hit me up. Feel free to. But
nice, perfect, man. And they'll all his links will be in the description, guys. Perfect. So you've mentioned, a couple of people who helped you, encourage you to even start your own YouTube channel, and you're obviously a big fan of their content. So, who are some other, self improvement influencers or YouTubers that you've watched that have really impacted your life, and people that like you'd recommend to viewers watching right now?
thank you for this question, because my heart is like these influencers have a special place in my heart. Like my transformation because of me consuming their content, and for them, like, creating that content and providing it for me, that it really changed my life for the better. Sometimes I get
Mm.
in my feels thinking about it, but besides JT, Ice Cold JT and Jordan Green, I
Yeah.
say like my third favorite or third most like impactful on my life was Vontu Cut back in summer 2020. Quarantine. I had all that time to myself. I was
Mm.
watching Vontu Cut. He made me feel like that man sometimes with his motivational speeches and just realist advice. So Vontu Cut,
Mm.
and recently, like, it's actually crazy how recent I started watching Hamza, but it's like October 2022, and that's because I'm like one of those viewers who's like really reluctant to start watching a new channel. But with Hamza, like as soon as I
I
started
see.
watching him, I became, I wouldn't say obsessed. I would just be like started watching him consistently, because he provides way too much value for free. But
Yeah,
anyway, I'd say those four are like my main four, that I
that's for you
recommend to
mean
everybody
for.
else.
I see. Nice, man. I wanted to touch bit on the idea of nofap. You've made a couple of videos about that on your channel. Um, what would you say are the most beneficial aspects of it? What like results have you seen? Like how does it change maybe your physical health or your mental health? What would you say are the benefits of doing it?
So I'm glad you divided it up into, categories of like physical, mental, and spiritual benefits. That's something I
Mm,
did back in the day. Like when I was 15 years old, I created a list of myself. I was like looking at it and like, these are the benefits you'll achieve if you just succeed on NoFap. And I
yeah.
think that really took me a long way on my NoFap journey. So I do
Mm,
believe that spiritual benefits are underrated. Just somehow, it's not a way in which I can scientifically prove it, but I love life a lot more. It's more enjoyable. I feel closer connected to God, and I can feel the soul of a woman versus, back before NoFap, I was, indulging in PMO. Women to me would be like, I don't know, I would just have lustful thoughts to them, to put it simply and
mm,
in a non-offensive way, but just I would have
yeah.
lustful thoughts about them, objectify them. Then NoFap comes around, I start practicing that. I see the beautiful life in a woman and how the divine feminine energy. mirrors, our masculine energy that's also divine, but uh, that's just like the spiritual aspect. I know it's not like the most popular, mainstream, cool sounding thing, but physical, mentally, physically and mentally, a lot of energy to do these other self improvement habits. See, I think if NoFap's the
Mm,
first thing somebody does, that opens the gates for this person to actually utilize their energy to implement these other self improvement habits like meditation, cold showers, journaling, reading, whatever it may be. And
mm.
yeah, I just love the how the brain fog clears, it goes away, and now my vision is clear because of NoFap. That's what I would say. Like the best benefit is.
That's amazing, man. So, why do you think that this is such an epidemic of the idea of no fat? Why is it so popular? Why is it that so many young men, teenagers are struggling with this? Is it because like sexual content is really accessible? Is it because they're lonely, or is it why is this like such a unprecedented thing that's ever happened before?
Yep, unprecedented in human history.
Yeah.
And what was the first half of your question? You said something about
Oh yeah. Why is it like so popular?
oh yeah, like why is it
Yeah.
like an
Like
epidemic now and all that?
yeah.
That's to me that's like the right label to put onto it. I call it a silent epidemic because
Silent
the
epidemic.
news
Mm.
really isn't talking about this at all. Like state governments are just now passing laws banning children from sites like P Hub, and so I'm glad we're moving in the
Mm.
right direction. You feel me? But the accessibility of it definitely plays a part into it because you wouldn't have too many people with a porn addiction because the magazines were far away into a store, and but now
Mm.
it's like you can wake up, have your laptop next to you, and pornography would be the first thing you consume. To me, that's really sad. How thousands of lives like days are being started that way. So
Yeah, that's insane.
accessibility, feeling lonely, definitely the loneliness aspect. Social media, I call it anti-social media, and it can
Anti-social
divide people
media.
sometimes. It can create an echo chamber, and on a certain issue, you'll hate the other side of the issue, causing loneliness or whatever. Just some topic can
Mm.
easily divide or break a close friendship, and that's just really tough to deal with. And loneliness is an epidemic within itself. So it's possible. I haven't come to this conclusion, but it's possible that pornography is a symptom of loneliness. I'm still trying to get to the root cause
Mm.
of why people watch pornography. Like it obviously doesn't bring fulfillment, but it brings
Yeah.
like instant gratification, like pleasure in the moment, and you're satisfying yourself now, but you're uh, trading that your soul for that pleasure right now.
Yeah.
It goes back to if something is free, you are the product. The companies like MindGeek, I
Mm.
know MindGeek is the owner. They tried to change their name, but MindGeek is the owner of P Hub, and they definitely have an
Oh.
agenda to keep people's minds controlled and watching this demonic stuff, keeping them away from God. Because if you find God, when you find God, God's the only thing you need, so you won't need to watch porn anymore. So that's just my um, perspective on it.
You've mentioned, the idea of like God and spirituality a couple of times. Has this always been something that, you've been interested in, or is this only like a recent kind of thing where you've found God and spirituality?
I'll say I've been interested in spirituality my whole life, but just in a different way. Like since I was a little kid, I was always interested in the deeper aspects of life. My mind was always so fascinated with understanding the deeper truths behind something. And
Mm.
to some people, that might be, a trait of mine they don't appreciate, but I love that trait about myself and how it's been consistent since I was a little kid, exploring. I think we should all explore and learn something from it. They say curiosity killed the cat, but curiosity is what makes it brings me life. So,
Mm.
spirituality, finding God, and all that, like the meaning behind life, is something I've always been asking myself. Like I remember when I was 8 years old, I would put up a community post, like a poll of like, Do you think you're going to heaven or hell? Does God exist? Like I've been asking these, religious, spiritual, philosophical questions since
Mm,
since I was a child. Now I'm tapping in with that inner child spirit again, and so that's why I've been the most happy with my life in the present moment because I'm asking myself those questions again and not necessarily finding some answers, but it's more like I'm opening my mind up to all the possible answers. So that's that.
I see. Okay, so it's a thing that you've kind of had like back or forefront of your mind since like you were younger. So it's okay. I see.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned like the idea of a higher vibrational being. What for people who have no idea what that means? Do you mind just explaining a bit what that entails?
First, I want to clarify that
Yeah.
anybody can decide to be a high vibrational being at any moment. It's
Okay.
just there's a lot of resistance in the mind. There's a lot of doubt about whether or not God really exists. So it's about having faith in some higher power, some spirituality that there may be like a life better like after our human lives, but we can still love the human lives that we're experiencing right now because we got a soul within our body experiencing this human experience. So not to be
Mm,
like redundant with my wording, but going back to like the vibration aspect, there's a Nikola Tesla quote that goes, "Think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." And I bring up Tesla because he's a very credible source. He's regarded as one of the greatest minds in human history. And I think if we go to him
okay.
and, people who may have their doubts, if they read that quote, they might have their minds finally opened up to like, hey, vibration. I also think that's where like science and spirituality like find common ground on is that like vibration is real, energy is real, frequency is real, and that us human beings are like vibrating on a certain frequency at all times, and that can correlate to our mood, our emotion. So by high vibrational being, it's kind of like the lifestyle aspect versus the mood, because moods are temporary, but lifestyle, it's it takes some work to change it, and
Yeah.
high vibrational being is just like doing the right things in life, always choosing the morally right option in a with a decision you have to make, and just trying to spread love or whatever positive feeling to others as well as yourself. That's how I view a high vibrational being to live.
Mm, yeah, I feel that. So on the opposite kind of side, what would you say is like what does a lower vibrational being look like?
They're basically attached. They've attached themselves to this 3D reality, and I know that might open up another can of worms, like with people asking like, no, what's the difference between a 3D reality, a 5D reality? But that's something I'm still trying to learn myself and explain it in a future video and all that. But
Okay.
basically, with the 3D reality, you're living in your ego. You aren't really perceiving this life with your soul, which, if you were perceiving your life with this soul, you'd be living in a 5D reality with a 5D consciousness, right? And right now, there are low vibrational beings who they're so attached to their ego that they place their self worth on material items. Like, oh, I'll finally be happy when I get that car, or when I get that girl,
Uh,
or just they might be trying drugs to um, drown in their own self pity or whatever like feeling they
mm,
have about themselves. When in reality they should be loving themselves. So that's how I imagine a low vibrational being to be. They're indulged in the wrong habits that aren't godlike, and they aren't even helping themselves, so they can't help other people within this world. They aren't providing value. But the good news is you can always go from a low vibrational being to a high vibrational being. All it takes is that open heart, open mind, and willingness to learn how to become one.
I see. Okay, so anyone can become a high vibrational being.
For
Okay,
sure.
so for someone who they do want to, so they can be with an open heart and everything, but how do they educate themselves on the whole topic or idea of spirituality? Is there certain books that you read, or is there, content creators that you watch? How does someone learn and get more in touch with themselves?
Well, this would be a, I don't know, I guess goofy advice to provide because I haven't done it myself, but read Eckhart Tolle, either The Power of Now or one of his other like popular books. Eckhart Tolle, which is spelled Eckharttolle. That's Eckhart Tolle, one of the most well-known spiritual authors who can introduce you to spirituality with his books and basically find the power of living in the present moment and being mindful of, having an awareness of your, not only your surroundings, not only your external environment, but your internal environment. So it's basically
Mm,
like you want to find a teacher that shows you like the interconnectedness of things and how life is just so connected in different ways. I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but in terms of like sources for somebody like trying to learn about spirituality, just
yeah.
try searching for, spirituality 101 in the YouTube search bar. Me personally, I would recommend Vontu Cut, but it's been a while
Okay.
since he made content like that. So really, that's
I
that's
see.
where I guess where I find myself to come to into play is providing that access, that like widespread access to spirituality. Um,
Hmm.
but that's a very good question. What is it? Is there a way you would answer that question yourself?
For me, because I'm personally a Christian, for me, it's always my go-to recommendation is going to be, reading the Bible. It's
Yeah, for
something
sure.
that I'm taking like more seriously, trying to do it as much as possible. Um, so that's definitely what I'd say for anyone who, is interested in like Christianity and the side of things.
Religion and spirituality, they don't have to be mutually exclusive. They can definitely
Mm,
like blend in well together and provide a higher purpose for you to fulfill, and be happy with
mm.
life and love the world, so to speak, in addition to yourself. But yeah, I'm glad you brought up Christianity too. Um, I still find myself to be a Christian, but not in really like a religious way, but more spiritual way. I I mean that's opens up a new conversation, but yeah, thank you for
No,
bringing that up.
I get what you're trying to say. It's like, because with the whole, Christian, the way things are going with Christianity now is like there's a lot of like, corruption or disagreement on how things are supposed to be run. So, but in terms of like, focusing on your relationship with God and, you know, becoming more fulfilled and working on your inner self, there's definitely the benefits of Christianity to that. So I do get what you're trying to say, absolutely. Moving aside from that, I just wanted to ask you, what is like a piece of advice you'd give to someone where it's like they're, we'll call them a low vibrational being for now. They're pretty much lacking in all areas, spiritual health, mental health, physical health. What is what would you say that their priority should be? Which one should they focus on? Should it be, going to the gym because happy body, happy mind, or is it, focusing on their mental or spiritual? What would you say?
Very good question. And I want to first clarify that being a low vibrational being, well, that I said being twice in that sentence, but it's not an insult. It really isn't. It's just a
Okay,
state.
yeah.
It's a state of your consciousness, and it's not who you
Okay.
truly are. It's not who you truly are. There's nobody on this world that's a low vibrational being, from birth. But
Mm,
it's kind of like I'm trying to avoid, being like that kind of guy who calls people bots. Like that's not me. I speak the truth with compassion, and so with that, with the question you asked, uh, where should low vibrational beings look towards first? I definitely think they tend to focus too much on the physical. So yeah, actually going to the gym would really help. But what if that person's too focused on impressing girls or doing it for the wrong things, not for
mm,
their actual physical health? You feel me? So that's why I would guide them towards the mental, spiritual side. You know, if they have depression and anxiety, what kind of therapy can you find to help you the most and help you heal your wounds, your traumas that you may have experienced in childhood, just stuff that gets deep. You know, you gotta if you're a low vibrational
Mm,
being, you gotta introduce yourself to the deeper meaning of everything in life, and always finding the root cause, the answer to your problems, the solution. Um, but
mm,
yeah, I'd definitely advise somebody like that to focus on the mental and spiritual sides. Um, meditate, I believe, can be a very good first step because it's something you can always do right now. Like when you hear the word meditation, when you hear the word mindfulness, you know, mindful breathing, you can listen to your breath, have your five senses focus on your breath and the fact you're breathing right now. You have life, you know. But
yeah,
that's
absolutely.
that's a very compassionate way to open up somebody to the spiritual realm. Is like, hey, you're living right now, and you only got like one life on this earth, so breathe in that good prana, baby. Peace.
Yeah. I love that, man. You seem to have like a really, humble and grounded like view on, earth and life and your perspective. How like how did you develop that at such a young age? Because lots of adults don't get to, your way of thinking and your perspectives until they're a lot later on in their lives. So how did you develop that at such a young age?
I think it comes down to personality, which it's malleable, right? You can change your personality in a way like naturally though, like over time, my personality could change to where I go from an introvert to extrovert. But
Mm.
it's always been a part of me. There's this term I was gonna use. Like, yeah, it's like my calling, but what's that word for like when you've always been something? Um,
Always been something.
since ah how you asked me can you re-ask the question? If you re-ask the question, then it
Oh,
might
okay.
pop up in my head again.
Oh, yeah. So what I was trying to say is like, um, how did you get such a grounded and humble kind of worldview on like life, and because you've been saying things like you just be happy and focus on yourself, all this kind of stuff, and most adults, they don't develop this kind of you only have one life and your life, be happy kind of mindset until they're a lot later on in their lives. But you're thinking like this now, and not many people think like that at your age. So how did you kind of develop that mindset, that perspective on the world and life?
Through my upbringing, because I've always felt different. Like that term, feeling different is the term I was trying to bring back to my, conscious. Feeling different since,
Mm,
being little, going to school. School definitely impacted me in that way of feeling like a social outcast, but even though it had
yeah.
its like negative sides at the time, there's always this positive side. Like with me not fitting into any friend group, I would have time to myself and introspect and look at what I truly value. And I just think
Mm,
it's my core nature to have an optimistic outlook on life, to have positive energy, and to try my best to tap into it. Try my best at everything I do with passion. Uh, you could look towards
mm.
astrology. Like I know I have a lot of astrology folks who are subscribed to me. They'd be like, they look at my zodiac sign, and be like, oh yeah, that is definitely your zodiac sign. But it's kind of corny,
Yeah.
but it describes me perfectly. Like my Aries sign. You can also look at my personality. I'm an INFJ. INFJ, one of the most rarest personalities in the world, and that's not me like
Ah.
trying to be different. I'm genuinely not trying to be different. That's just how I've always felt, you know. Um, and so
Okay.
with
I
that,
see.
that's how I have like this perspective that is different from mainstream, from most of society, attached to this materialistic lifestyle way of thinking. It's brought me to the spiritual way of thinking. Um, but yeah,
I
do
see.
you think I explained that pretty well?
No, I think that was explained really well, because it's like I said before, it's a kind of perspective that not many people have our age. So it's got to be because you're kind of like different in some way, and that sort of makes you you, and that's why you have this really good um view on take on life so at such a young age. So that's really great, man. I love that. I want to ask this, and because I've asked a couple of people this, and this seems to be like a very what's the word, a lot of people agree and a lot of people disagree, so I wanted to see what your take on it is, and that's like your opinion on the whole kind of psychedelics thing, because a lot of YouTubers, they say it's good, and a lot oh, what was that?
Yo.
Yeah, so because like I know like Hamza's taking them. Been a lot of people like I think there's this YouTuber. His name is Luke Belma. He's spoken about them a lot. But there's on the other side, there's a lot of people who say that it's drugs or whatever. You shouldn't be doing that or stuff like that. So, what's your opinion on the whole situation with that?
I love that you're providing me an opportunity to give out a hot take to the community.
I have to,
I'm
yeah.
I'm definitely in favor of psychedelics, and I'm not gonna
Okay,
apologize for it. I'm unapologetically in favor of psychedelics and the legalization of them. And with that,
okay,
I also am on the side of please educate yourself and use them safely. Like with everything, uh, it's definitely mind boggling to me how alcohol is legal but psychedelics
yeah,
aren't. And if you're caught with them, you're put into jail for a while. I don't know the years exactly, but it's different for the states, right? I live in the United
yeah,
States, and each United State has a different government, but it's like there's a state government and then a federal government. I think federally they're banned until a certain state decides, like, hey, you can actually use psychedelics in our state. So
I see.
um, when you say, I kind of want to know exactly what you want answered. Am I on the side of legalization, or are you saying to? Are you asking me if I would promote the use of them?
Yeah, the second, would you like promote the use of it? Would you say that it's something that enhances someone's life, or is it detrimental to someone's life?
It's definitely beneficial when the person's mind is open up to understanding truths. Because I've heard when you
Okay.
take those, you're introduced to universal truths like, hey, we're all like conscious or whatever, something deep that you just
Yeah.
absolutely love in the moment when taking those. But at the same time, I've heard of bad experiences because people they'll take them, go into it, having anxiety or just not being in a good state of mind at that time. So I would only
Mm.
encourage the use of those if you're in a good state of mind, if you're open to being open, dang, uh, to
No, I get what you
learning
mean.
truths. It is basically just introduce you to your consciousness, right? Because, and I bring it
Yeah.
up because your brain changes. There's this, yeah, it's a drug, and people be like, oh, drugs are bad, drugs are bad. But wouldn't you also call antidepressants a drug? You know how many people get hooked onto those
Mm.
and become dependent on those? The crazy thing is,
Yeah, you
psychedelics
got a
aren't
point.
an addictive substance. Okay, somebody
Oh,
can
okay.
take them one or two times and be like, I'm done with them because I learned what I learned from them. So if you like, okay,
Mm.
I know I'm shouting out another person. I don't want like the description to be full of people that I reference, but my friend Sean, aka Psych Up, like Psych, the word
Okay.
psyche, and then Up. He's got a channel who he took some videos down, but he's still like the best accessible spiritual like teacher who promotes the use of psychedelics because it will lead to a spiritual awakening and all that. So I reference anybody watching this to that guy right now, Psych Up, and just DM
Okay.
him,
Psych
email
up.
him, find his Discord, whatever it may be. You can find him through me. Just hit me up. But
Okay. Psych up. Okay. No, that's a interesting take, man. No, and that was very well said.
thank
So,
you.
final question now. how I like to, always leave off my podcast is by asking you what's like really random piece of advice or a quote that you've got from a book or you heard someone say, maybe a family members or self-improvement content creator, that really changed your outlook on life or really impacted your mindset, the way you look at a certain thing. Just one quote or one kind of statement you'd say.
All right. One of my favorite quotes of all time is the one that I thought of first when you asked me that.
Okay.
Maya Angelou once said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. Man,
Mm.
it it gets you to think very deeply about how important the small actions are because the small actions build up, right? You build this reputation, this identity and reputation that people will they'll either look down upon you or they'll look up to you as a role model. And it all starts with the action you can take right now and start building. And hey, that's how I view life.
No.
I'm building.
Uh,
I'm living in Minecraft creative mode. So
Minecraft creative mode. Nice one. Oh, I love that. That's a really, really good quote. Take that one in, guys. Anyone that's watching right now. Where can people find you on YouTube, social media, all that good stuff, bro?
for sure, I plan to like in every single one of my videos to plug in my Instagram, Discord, and YouTube. Those are the main three I use. Like obviously Gmail, right? But Gmail isn't social media. It's like this, like my business, side. So you
Yeah,
got
for sure.
Instagram, which is jacob.a.tiller, YouTube, Jacob A. Tiller. That's what's up. And the Discord is called Thrillers Only. It's for people interested in self improvement, spirituality, self love, everything within and everything in between. And it's a community I'm trying to
Mm,
build up because I think we can accomplish a ton together. But it's my part to be the leader of that. So I encourage you to join the Discord link, which is in the description of all my videos. But yeah, that's basically all the platforms I'm on. I just brought my Instagram back because it's kind of weird, right? I'll be like, how Instagram actively destroys your mental health. Then I'm like, well, I might as well build my brand on them and build my brand on there and like spread the awareness of like, hey, are you mindfully consuming? Are you trying to find inspiration or knowledge on this app? If so, then keep going. Like collect
mm.
$200 and go, like the Monopoly kind of thing. But
No, I love that, man. Yeah, it's the same thing with you. What you're saying, it can be used as a double-edged sword with social media, and you're using it for good. So that's all that matters at the end of the day. But
yeah,
thank you, man, for this conversation. I really enjoyed this one.
thank you, Timothy.
Perfect.